Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a review of the Jaguar. No, not that Jaguar. No, not that Jaguar either. This Jaguar. This is a review of the Jaguar one-shot from Archie Comics. This is out right now. You can get it at your local comic shop, or you can get it digitally on Amazon/Comixology. And I don't believe there's a trade paperback, or at least not one that I've heard of, that'll include this. This is kind of a random one-shot, and so I would definitely recommend buying this, in individual issue, however you get it. And yes, kids, Archie does have superhero comics, and they've actually got a line of superheroes that dates back to the golden age of comics. And so we'll talk about that at the end, along with some one-shots like this that have come out recently that have actually used these characters. But first, let's take a look at this absolutely gorgeous cover that sold me on this issue. I saw this and I had to have it. It is beautifully rendered, perfectly shows the costume, and the costume looks really badass for the Jaguar. And I love the use of backgrounds. We can tell what type of story it is, where it's taking place. Love the attitude in the character. It's just a really beautiful cover and absolutely worth picking up. But it is not the only cover. There is a variant cover, and in my opinion, it is equally as gorgeous. And I actually ordered this, but there was a snafu at my comic shop, and I'm hoping to get this one as well, because I just think Jaguar looks really cool and makes for some really badass covers. And I love the fact that she's kind of jumping at you, trying to claw you and stuff. It's obviously a very iconic pose for the character and really reminds me of the cover for the first issue of Impact Comics Jaguar, which was the first time they turned the Jaguar into a female character. It's also reminiscent of a variant cover from New Crusaders, which is the title that introduced this version of the Jaguar. And by the way, the printing on this comic feels very premium. The cover isn't cardstock, but it's definitely thicker than your regular cover stock, and it feels very nice. You get this really nice, classy inside cover, and the pages are on glossy paper. There's also an editorial in the back to give some insight into the issue with some behind-the-scenes sketches, as well as a back cover. It just feels like a very premium comic. So the art on the interior is very stylized and probably leans a little bit too much into the abstract for me. I would have preferred something a little more realistic. I understand that, Archie Comics does a lot of stylized artwork, obviously, and the artwork on New Crusaders was very cartoony, but I feel like this probably pushes that a little too far for my taste. But I think the artwork holds up a lot better in the action scenes and really does deliver some very kinetic kind of superhero action and does not skimp on backgrounds either. The coloring is interesting, so I do appreciate the fact that at night they're not coloring everything dark and making it into a muddy, incomprehensible mess. So they're coloring the characters that we're supposed to be seeing properly so they pop out and we can see the action, but it's the coloring in the background that becomes kind of these washed out tones to try to portray the darkness. And I don't know. I wish they could have come up with a better solution, because there's a lot of good line work here that's getting lost in these colors in the background. So the story involves jungle cats being killed in the jungles of Peru, and some young scientists are brought in to investigate, and includes our main hero, Yvette Velez. So she's feeling isolated on this bus because she doesn't speak Spanish, and most of the people on here are speaking Spanish. And so this is interesting, because we have a scene here where there's a lot of Spanish dialogue, but if you don't speak it, you're going to feel just like she does. Now, if you are curious about what they're saying, you can just go to Google Translate and take a picture of this page, and it will translate it and tell you what these folks are saying. Yvette's parents were from Peru, but they died when she was very, very young. And she was mentored by zoologist Ralph Hardy, who was the original Jaguar, and he gives her this helmet that lets her channel the powers of the Jaguar god and turn her into the Jaguar. And the villain turns out to be a new version of the Buzzard, and they fight, and there is actually some connection to her past here and some secrets that are revealed. Now, I was incorrect in my preview video. This is not the same Yvette Velez from New Crusaders but it is a very similar version. It's another soft reboot, another spiritual successor. The characters here, unfortunately, just don't have time to be developed. We don't really get to know a lot about them in this one issue with modern pacing. The fight scene is very short as well. Um, I don't know if it's the most satisfying single issue I've ever read, but it is a solid premise, and I am intrigued by the character, and I would certainly be up for more if they wanted to put out more. Another thing I would have liked is if the cover and the interior art matched, which I think is how Archie does things. Now, I don't collect Archie comics. Archie is kind of a foreign country I occasionally visit, so someone please correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe Archie still puts out comics that look like this, their traditional art style, and when you see something that looks like this, you can expect to see artwork on the interior that also looks like the traditional Archie style. But then they also put out other comics like their horror comics that have more realistic artwork on the cover. And when you see that, you're generally going to get something in the same artistic ballpark on the interior. So it would have been cool if that had been done here as well. All right, so let's talk about the Archie Comics superheroes. So Archie Comics does have superheroes that date all the way back to the Golden Age, including the first patriotic hero to predate Captain America, the Shield. And so these guys have been around a while, and they've been published by all kinds of different imprints and different company names. MLJ, Red Circle, Blue Ribbon, Dark Circle, Impact Comics. But right now, it's actually being published as an Archie comic. The original Jaguar, Ralph Hardy, joined the lineup in the 1960s. In the early 90s, the characters were reimagined as part of Impact Comics, which was published by DC. And that included the Jaguar, who was reimagined as a South American college student who had come to America and ends up inheriting the mystical power of the Jaguar. Over 10 years ago, Archie Comics put out the New Crusaders, which had a new generation of heroes taking on the mantle of their parents when something happens to the original Crusaders. And this introduced a new version of the Jaguar, Yvette Velez, who inherited her power from Ralph Hardy. The New Crusaders ran for 6 issues, and then there's a one-shot called Dark Tomorrow, and also a one-shot crossover with Archie Super Teens. All of that is available to read on Comixology Unlimited. The one-shot Dark Tomorrow is also included in the Mighty Crusaders trade paperback, which includes something that was done a few years later that was a soft reboot of the Crusaders again, and this time Yvette Velez was turned into a furry. And so once again, we're at yet another soft reboot of these characters. And while I would totally be down for someone following up on previous versions of these characters, it's been quite a few years, and I don't really expect it to happen. Probably the most interesting thing about the current one-shots that Archie is doing is that it is not part of an imprint. Like normally this is like Dark Circle or Red Circle or something like that. No, this, kids, is an Archie comic. And so my presumption is that this is happening in the same world as Archie and Betty and all of that. And maybe that'll work, right? Maybe they can get, the readers who regularly read their Archie comics to pick up this stuff and build an audience for these heroes. The other 2 one-shots that Archie has put out of its superheroes are The Darkling and Bob Phantom. And the preview for this had really excellent writing and art, and so I'll probably definitely be picking that one up at some point. All right, that's it. Like and subscribe for more videos. And until next time, see ya.